Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to really dig into some incredible source materials. We're looking at the life of, well, one of the most fascinating and, frankly, contradictory figures from World War II.
Absolutely.
We're talking about the famous Soviet sniper, Senior Lieutenant Tat'yana Levchenko, known globally by that really chilling name, the Beautiful Assassin.
It's an amazing story, yeah. And the sources, they really push us past the legend. They show us, a scholar, someone who loved reading poets like Akhmatova and Assassin, poets who were actually banned back then.
Right.
And she was a young wife, a mother. She adored her daughter, Masha, called her Moy Kralik, my little rabbit.
Oh.
But then she's also this certified master marksman, a huge Soviet war hero who even toured the U.S. with Eleanor Roosevelt. And then somehow she ends up living out her life in hiding under the name Irina Andreeva.
And that hidden life, that's kind of our starting point, isn't it? This
Yeah.
deep dive, it follows a researcher decades later who finds this elderly woman, Irina Andreeva,
Yep.
living in this totally unremarkable house, somewhere quiet in the American Midwest. Nothing about the place suggests this extraordinary past, except the sources point out the one detail.
The eyes.
Exactly, that clear, intense, almost hawk-like gaze, the kind of focus you'd expect from a sniper. It's still there.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How does someone who loves poetry, a mother, how does she become this incredibly effective sniper with, over 300 confirmed kills?
And then a political pawn for the Soviets, only
yeah.
to just vanish.
It's quite the journey.
Let's start at the beginning then. That transformation from scholar to soldier.
Yeah.
What actually pushed her? Because the sources are clear. It wasn't just, standard patriotism.
No, not at all. It was pure, raw personal tragedy. The materials show her motivation was almost entirely grief and vengeance. Yes, after her little daughter, Masha, was killed in a German bombing near Kharkov, Tat'yana apparently spent hours in the rubble, just holding her daughter's body, filled with this crushing guilt. That loss, it didn't just motivate her, it completely consumed her. It turned into this absolute need to hurt the people responsible.
Wow. But even with that powerful drive, getting into a combat role in 1942, that couldn't have been easy for a woman. What was the first hurdle?
Oh, immediate sexism. Just blatant dismissal. Male officers mocked her. They told her, go home. Killing's a man's job.
Seriously.
Yeah. One even asked, "What do you think war is, pretty girl?" A dance. They just didn't think she could handle it, skill-wise or emotionally.
But she had something to prove them wrong, didn't she? Her skill.
Exactly. She didn't just argue, she presented proof. She'd trained like crazy at the Sovyakim shooting club back in Kiev. She had her marksman certificate.
And this wasn't just any certificate. Give us the details on her skill level.
Okay, so get this. The certificate showed she could put 5 shots inside a 5-centimeter circle that's tiny at 100 yards. Without a scope, just iron sights.
No way.
Yeah, that kind of precision, it just shut them up. It got her into the unit.
So she gets in. And her approach to sniping, it sounds almost philosophical, demanding.
Very demanding. It wasn't about anger in the moment. It was about complete physical discipline. The sources talk about needing to totally silence her breathing and learning this technique of gently kissing the trigger.
Kissing the trigger.
Yeah, like the gentlest pressure possible, achieving the perfect shot through just absolute stillness. Control.
And that control, that philosophy, it led to her most famous duel, right?
Yeah.
Against that German sniper they called the King of Death.
Ah, yes. That duel, it's a masterclass in patience, really. This German guy was good, really clever. He forced her to just watch him for days.
Days.
Yeah. And she finally got him, not by being faster or more aggressive, but through position. She picked this incredibly dangerous spot way forward in a tree, totally exposed, because she figured out the sun angle. From that spot, the morning sun would be right in his eyes until noon. That tiny edge, that was it. Patience and positioning.
Okay, but here's where it gets, psychologically messy. You talk about total control. Did that control ever slip? What was the cost of being so clinical?
Oh, it definitely broke down sometimes, usually afterwards. There's this incredibly vivid description after kill number 288, which turned out to be the King of Death.
Right.
The source describes her stripping his body, taking his iron cross for a friend, grabbing some chocolate she planned to share with Zoya, her spotter, just practical battlefield stuff.
Okay.
But then, as the German sniper is dying, he whispers a name. Senta.
Oh, man.
Yeah, It's just gut-wrenching. In the middle of this clinical task, she's suddenly confronted with his humanity. This enemy soldier had someone, and she's just reduced him to, loot. It clearly shook her.
That tension, creation versus destruction, it seems like it was right there in her private life, too. She kept this meticulous kill log, right? 315 kills.
That's right.
But in the same notebook, she's writing poetry, reading those banned poets.
Exactly. Creation and destruction literally side by side in one book. It's such a striking image, isn't it? It suggests this profound need to compartmentalize. The poetry was maybe her escape hatch, a way to keep some small part of her soul alive while doing this incredibly brutal work.
And that need for escape must have grown, especially as the war dragged on. The ideals she started with started to fray, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. Her journal entries, especially from the defense of Sebastopol, they show this real cynicism creeping in. Conditions were just horrific. Half rations, constant shelling, zero privacy.
Yeah.
She wrote that the war purged me of that, meaning modesty, personal space. She called losing that the worst casualty of war.
Wow.
And worse than the physical hardship, maybe, was seeing the hypocrisy, that revolutionary promise of equality. She saw it was a lie. She wrote how a select few got plenty while the rest got the scraps.
So cynicism towards the system is growing, but she still found connections on the ground, right? Like her bond with Zoya Kovshova, her comrade.
Oh, absolutely essential. Their bond was incredibly close, forged in survival. The sources mention them literally sleeping wrapped around each other just to stay warm in the winter. Zoya was her rock, fiercely loyal.
But her feelings about her husband, Kolya, were more complicated.
Much more complicated. She respected him, yeah. He was an engineer. She called him a dearest friend, even a brother. But the love, the romantic love, wasn't really there. She actually dreaded the thought of going back to what she called the gilded cage of their marriage.
That's intense.
And it gets darker. She admitted, only in her journal, this blackest of secrets. Sometimes she found herself wishing Kolya wouldn't survive the front.
Just so she could be free.
Just so she could be free. It shows how the war just stripped everything down to survival and this desperate need for personal independence. She couldn't keep up the pre-war appearances anymore.
But her personal life, her private struggles, they were about to become very public, weren't they? Her success on the battlefield, getting the Order of the Red Banner.
Made her too valuable to stay just a soldier. Yeah.
She became the Soviet military's poster girl. A national hero. They used her image to boost morale at home and, specifically the sources say, to needle the Nazis, to prick Aryan pride.
So the political leadership saw her as this major asset, too important to risk losing at the front.
Exactly. They started making plans for her.
Yeah.
But even as her fame grew, she wasn't just a puppet. We see her pushback.
How so?
There's this incredible moment documented where she confronts General Petrov. He was the commander at Sevastopol who, well, managed to get himself evacuated while thousands of his troops were left behind.
Ooh.
And Tat'yana, she confronts him directly about it, speaks up for the abandoned soldiers. It shows, even with her growing cynicism about the system, her loyalty to the ordinary soldier was still fierce.
That courage is amazing.
Yeah.
But the system had plans for her. Enter Vasilyev, her handler.
Yep. Vasilyev, officially from the ideological department, but secretly NKVD, the secret police. He's the one who cooked up her nickname. Krasavitsa Ubitsa, the beautiful assassin. Catchy but chilling, and her mission.
Officially, to tour the United States and rally support for the war effort, put pressure on the Allies.
Put pressure how?
Well, the NKVD notes are brutally blunt. Her job was basically to tour the U.S. and convince the Americans to, and this is close to a quote from the mission briefing, get off their fat capitalist asses and open the second front in Europe.
Wow. Subtle diplomacy there.
Not exactly.
And the tour itself sounds like something out of a weird movie.
Totally absurd. She hated it. They made her wear makeup, silk stockings, stuff she despised. She's being paraded around, eating these huge meals.
While judging the Americans for being spoiled capitalists.
Right. It's this crazy contrast to the starvation rations she just left. But the American public, they loved her. Standing ovations everywhere. They even named a street after her for a while, Elizabeth Levchenko.
The high point, propaganda-wise, must have been the White House visit and her connection with Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes, they formed a surprisingly close bond, Mrs. R. and Tat'yana. But that bond, well, it started with a significant lie, Tat'yana told.
What was the lie?
She told Mrs. Roosevelt that both her husband and her daughter Masha had been killed in the bombing of Kiev.
Oh, wow. So she doubled down on the tragedy.
Yeah. And when Mrs. Roosevelt saw this little crude drawing Tat'yana had made of Masha's death, the First Lady just embraced her. Huge compassion. And for Tat'yana, it was maybe the only moment on that whole tour where someone saw her just as a grieving woman, not the killer soldier.
But behind this connection, the handlers had a much darker agenda.
Much darker. Vasilyev and his boss, Zarubin, they weren't just there for morale. They were running an intelligence operation. The real goal: get leverage, their word, over Eleanor Roosevelt.
Leverage? How?
Mrs. Roosevelt was codenamed Enormous in their files. They were actively digging into her close friendship with the journalist Lorena Hickok, looking for anything scandalous they could use for blackmail, basically, what they called persuasion, to try and squeeze political secrets out of the First Lady.
Unbelievable. Using Tat'yana's access like that. And things got even more complicated for her personally, didn't they, with an American officer?
Right. She starts a relationship with this Captain Jack Taylor, an American liaison officer who spoke perfect Russian. Seems straightforward, maybe a wartime romance.
Well,
But then she finds out he's not just Captain Taylor, he's actually Charles Pierce, an OSS officer, American intelligence.
so she's caught between Soviet handlers trying to use her against the First Lady, and she's involved with an American spy.
Exactly. She suddenly realizes she's completely tangled up in this web, spies on all sides, not just a guest, but a piece on the board.
Which leads to this terrifying climax in San Francisco, the interrogation.
Yeah, truly chilling. Zarubin, the NKVD boss, and another agent, Gavrilov, they interrogate her brutally. The sources say she was actually struck.
Physically hit.
Yes. And they're grilling her specifically about Mrs. Roosevelt, and asking about names of scientists Vasilyev had fed her earlier, supposedly just as talking points. They were testing her, seeing what she knew, how loyal she was.
We should be clear, Zarubin and Gavrilov, these guys were Chikisty, right? Soviet secret police. This wasn't just a stern talking to.
No, this was serious. A clear threat. And right in the middle of this terrifying pressure cooker, she gets news that completely changes her calculation.
What news?
A telegram. It says her husband, Kolya, the one she thought might be dead or wished might be. He's alive, wounded, recovering in a hospital, but alive.
Oh my God. So deciding to defect just got infinitely more complicated.
Immensely. Because now abandoning the Soviet Union wouldn't just impact her. She knew it would bring shame and likely harsher consequences. Her words down on Kolya, this innocent guy just trying to heal.
So she's caught. The danger from the NKVD is real. They're trying to hold her, basically. But defecting could destroy her husband. What does she do?
Despite everything, despite the risk to Kolya, the danger she's in, she makes the choice. She finds Captain Taylor, Charlie Pierce, and asks for political asylum.
And does she get away?
She does. And here's the final irony. It's Mrs. Roosevelt, the person her handlers wanted her to spy on, who quietly pulls the strings. Arrangements are made, and the FBI and U.S. contacts manage to extract her. The target saves the pawn.
Incredible. So let's jump forward again, decades later, back to that researcher finding the old woman in the Midwest, Irina Andreeva.
Right. And when the researcher finally confronts her, asks if she's Tat'yana Levchenko, the old woman looks her right in the eye, completely denies it, just says flatly, Ona umrla davno. That woman perished in the war.
Wow. Complete erasure.
And the sources show she really did achieve that anonymity. She married an American, Walter Bishop, settled down, built this totally quiet new life, erased the past.
And the final detail the interview reveals, it's about creation again, isn't it?
It really is. The final sort of poignant detail is that she and Walter adopted a daughter. You see her in a photo, young woman, blonde bouffant hairstyle. So after being this symbol of destruction, her final act in a way was creating a family, being a quiet, anonymous mother.
So wrapping this all up, what do we take away from this, Tat'yana Levchenko's journey? It's this incredible story about needing to destroy your own identity to survive, isn't it? To get peace, to get freedom, she had to kill off the war hero persona that made her famous in the first place.
It really highlights the tragedy of that Soviet system, you know? It took her pain, her talent, and forged this propaganda icon, this symbol. But her most authentic act of creation, it wasn't the poetry she wrote or even the kills she logged.
It was adopting that child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Building that quiet, ordinary life in the middle of America. That was her real victory, maybe.
But there's a final unsettling question the source material leaves us with, isn't there? A provocative thought.
There is. While Tat'yana found her freedom, her new identity, her fulfillment, the question hangs there. What happened to Kolya?
Her husband, back in the USSR, recovering in that hospital.
Did her defection put him in danger? Did her freedom come at the cost of this innocent man, the one she called her dearest friend? Did she ever truly escape Stalin's shadow, or did it reach out and claim one last victim connected to her? We're left wondering about that price.